Welcome to the show, folks. This is just the pre-show, so you're not going to get a lot of information out of this yet, though I can pack a lot into 4 minutes. So what have I got here? I got messages clicking in. No show tonight? Dave asks. Why would you ask that, Dave? You're here in the chat room. Let's see, you know what time it is. Yes, I do. Do you know what time it is? Did you see the announcement put up earlier today? So, yes, we are here and we are doing a show. And we're also going to have Professor Bauer coming in pretty soon. You're working rehearsals for a sword fight for a wedding. I know that sounds crazy, a wedding with a sword fight. Not two. That's what they want. All right. Not sure where Scotty is. He hasn't answered my messages. And my phone you just messaged me 10 minutes ago. 15 minutes ago, Uncle Dave. So, sorry, I was getting ready. I was running around and doing stuff, getting something to drink, and combing my hair. So, there we go. Let's see. Let me get the stream started for tonight. I also need to plug in the soundboard. We still have little less than 3 minutes until we go live on Odyssey Radio. All right, I just shined a whole bunch more light by doing that, twisting that, moving that. Blah-de-blah. I still don't have my black headset back yet. Can't be found. It's gone. All right, let's get things lined up the way they're supposed to be. Like that. Shazam. And just like that, it was lined up. Hey, Matt Finn. Good to see you, brother. Remeldian. Good to see you. Barbie D. Sarah Yusuf. And Uncle Dave Potter is in here as well. Though I'd hope the bride would go for the white leather rather than lace. There you go. Would hate to ruin the lace work. If you know what you're doing, your lace work won't get ruined. So, what else we got going on? Nothing. We are ready to roll. Just waiting on stuff. I wanted to download a video and play it at the beginning of the show, but that isn't going to happen because I ran out of time doing the stuff I was doing for a client. We have a big client here that they make most of their money in this town in the summer months, in the hot summer months like it's been. And they had something quick for me to do. So, a menu board for their TVs in their outside bar and stands and stuff. They do the inner tubing down the Apple River here. And that's the my friend Steve Kaufman who owns that, the River's Edge. So, you know, Sarah, I got an article from you today, and I have not had a chance to open it. That's the kind of day it's been. So, I don't even see where it is. Do I know what time it is, says Uncle Dave? Oh, that was an old message. Yes. Yes, I know what time it is. It's what I do. I know what time it is. Oh my God, it's almost time. All right, folks, in a few seconds, we're going to go dark for all of you, and we're going to proceed with the show in about 10 seconds. So stand by, sit tight, don't go in.
Intrepid radio program with Scotty Roberts. Intelligent talk.
Are you looking for a really awesome and amazing graphic designer? How about an illustrator or a photographer? This is Rainey Roberts, and I wanted to tell you how you can get my designer, illustrator husband, Scotty Roberts, to work for you on your project. Do you have an awesome self-published book but no cover, or even worse, a cover that really sucks? Do you need a kick-ass logo for your company or some f***ing awesome graphic designs for your ads or website? Then get in touch with my husband for the best f***ing awesome kick-ass design and illustration. He knows his stuff, and he's been at this for more years than I've been alive. Go to ScottAllenRoberts.com. That's Scott with two T's, ALANROBERTS.com to take a look at his online portfolio of work, or call 651-468-8115. Now go out and kick some ass with some kick-ass graphic design.
Hire my dad, so he can take me to Disneyland.
You're listening to the Intrepid radio program with Scotty Roberts. Intelligent talk.
Different places now. 3 of them on Facebook. My Facebook page, Intrepid Radio's Facebook page, Odyssey Radio's Facebook page, and also right here on my YouTube channel. That's youtube.com/Scotty Roberts. Come on over, join the rest of the Intrepid family right here in our chat room, and where they're chatting up a storm already. I've actually got to put on my glasses tonight, wherever I put them. I left them somewhere else. Oh, well. That's all right. So, tonight is the night we're going to talk about time travel. And I've got Professor Bauer coming in, and he's going to lay his theories on us, although I haven't seen him yet. So, I'm sure he will be here soon, and then we'll launch into this. Because what I know about time travel on a quantum physics level or any other kind of level can fill a thimble. All I can do is speculate about it. I philosophize about it. I dream about it. I just said to somebody today, they said, wow, they were quoting an ancient Egyptian phrase about the pharaoh queen Hatshepsut. And they said that she was the most beautiful. And I said, yeah, if I could hop in a time machine and go back in time, then I would love to go back in time just to meet Hatshepsut. So I could look at her and in whatever language, ancient Egyptian, say, how you doing? So, yeah, she was a babe. At least for part of her reign. At least that's what was said of her. I think she got older. They said that they thought that she died of diabetes, but they were saying that before they had her body. So before they ever found her mummy. They're not sure they've even found it now. I think Zawi Hawass, they found a little box, an ossuary box, in the Cairo Museum. Wouldn't you love to go through the back rooms in the vaults and chambers of the Cairo Museum? That was built over 100 years ago, the original one, not the new one. And they had stuff in there they hadn't cataloged from 80, 90, 100 years ago. And so they found a box, and then it was a tooth. And they couldn't take the tooth out. There was something about it being almost like concrete inside, but they could x-ray it, and they found that the tooth had a jagged edge from being broken off. And then they found in the mummy of a woman that they thought may have been Hatshepsut, they found that the tooth matched the break in the mouth. So they're pretty sure they have this. And so, the joys of radio. Said, what the hell? What's with my sound? There we go. Now it's up. So, lip reading, they said. Hopefully nobody's going too ape shit over at the radio station. Sorry about that. Of course, we get into the show several minutes. I don't have my glasses on, and I can't find them. We're 10 minutes into the show. Sorry about that, folks. And we were still muted on the soundboard. Do you see what happens? If I have to engineer myself, that's what happens. More often than not. And I'm kind of tired of it. This chicken shit outfit over here. Me, not the radio station. So back on. There we go. There's our sound. The joys of live radio, said Sarah Yusuf. Yeah, ain't that the truth? So I was saying we've got Professor Bauer coming in tonight because we're going to be talking about time travel. And, of course, I did all the introductory matter, which you all know by heart now anyway. And I'm doing so many little things when we're off camera starting up the show that I forgot to port up the mic again. So that was my fault. That was human error. All those of you listening who are expecting a show, I hope you didn't abandon us because of my foibles, my human error, my faults. So hopefully one of these days I won't do that anymore. But I don't think that's going to happen anytime soon. So thank you all for being here. Again, this is the Intrepid Radio program. I'm your host, Scotty Roberts, blah, blah, blah. You can hear us on Odyssey Radio, ODYSYradio.com. You can hear all the archives over there. You can also find us in 4 places over on Facebook, or 3 places on Facebook, 4 places for the simulcast. My page on Facebook, Intrepid Radio's page on Facebook, and also Odyssey Radio's page on Facebook. And then, of course, this page, my YouTube page, where I'm sitting right now. That's youtube.com/Scotty Roberts. All right. Sorry for that blank. Boy, we must have been going 8 minutes or more. Blank. I really hate doing that, and I'm doing that a lot lately. It's not my brain. I swear I'm not going into dementia. I swear I could still run this country. So my fault. You know, if I ran this country, there'd be a huge difference. I'd have 100 people making sure my sound was up. It's just me. And you know, the only reason I turn it down is that when the intro plays on the program that we use to hijack this broadcast and spread it out to everywhere, it can pick me, even though I'm muted in StreamYard, which is my broadcasting app, it'll still pick up my mic. So I got to port the mic down physically. So that's what happens. So sorry about that, everyone. Again, David Otness, good evening. Good to see you. You were late last night. I was late tonight. Well, not really. My sound was late. My sound was dragging behind me. Post-it notes on your screen. I had them until I had it all down, Professor. I had this all down pat, so I took all my Post-it notes off.
Well, and that's the thing, is that you're sitting there going, oh, wait a minute. What is it I'm supposed to do to make sure it's going the way it's supposed to? Because that's why I'm using it. Is it going? Is it going, or is it not going? Right?
Exactly.
And you sit there and you go, well, I don't know. I'm thinking maybe it's kind of not going.
Yeah. Yeah. I just saw somebody said they couldn't hear me. And, can't hear you. And I'm like, oh, damn it. Son of a. So, yeah, I forgot to port up my mic. Is all that was.
Well, that's what happens when you got stuff to do. And that's part of why, you think about, if I could go back in time.
Yeah.
If I could go change the paradigm that exists now to another set of circumstances, would you do it?
There are some I wish I could go back and change things. Not as big as killing Hitler, nothing like that. That's shit's going to happen anyway, no matter what you do. I think there are things that are just meant to be, and you can't change them. Would I change things? Yeah, there's probably mistakes I made on a personal level that I wish I could go back and change. But how would my future or my present be when I got back here? What else would I have changed by changing the mistake I made?
That's the great unknown, the grandfather paradox, right?
That's right.
So the idea of time travel takes on, at least in my view, some very interesting aspects of what you think about when you imagine each of those words individually, let alone
Yes.
put together, right? Because time is a whole nother set of, Darren Kuyu kind of rabbit hole stuff. And you go, okay, there's all kinds of stuff going on in there. And at the end of the day, the most important thing that at least I have found for me is the realization that everything, no matter what it is, no matter what the subject matter is, the knowledge domain, the empirical, esoteric, metaphysical, and physical evidence, whatever that compiles, and there's a boatload across all of them.
Right.
If you look, and this, right?
Yep.
So when you look at the available information and do an examination and analysis for yourself about, does this even make sense? Do I have to learn a couple of things in order to even comprehend this, let alone have an opportunity to try and gain knowledge and hopefully understanding from it?
Yeah.
Because,
well,
right?
Sarah says right here in the chat room, but you wouldn't be the same person you are now, as you wouldn't have the same experiences.
Right.
See, now that's true. I think the thing I look at, it's not missing out on the experience. It's saying the people that I know, hey, a moderator, would you go take care of that person over in the chat room, please? Block them. There's somebody, if I've hurt somebody along the way, now I don't mean somebody offended somebody politically. Who cares? We all arguments, debates, stuff like that. I don't care about that. And where I know I've genuinely hurt people in my past, I wish I could go back and change the error in judgment I made to that ended up hurting that person.
And from what does that sense that you experience come from?
From what? How did you phrase that?
So in other words, you feel an emotional response.
Yes.
To a past experience that you remember, that you feel is in your record, wherever that definition is and wherever that is, right?
Yeah.
But there are moments in your record that you would like to go back and do differently, right?
Yes.
So you have an emotional response to those events in your mind and your experience, right?
Mm-hmm.
And that drives you to want, if you take time and travel and you say, yep, you can do those things, you'd like to take advantage of that vehicle to go back and redo that event.
Yes.
Right. And the question is that what does that do to the timeline? Which is another one of the many rabbit holes of time, different timelines that you could possibly imagine, which again is all speculation. But there are some very interesting things when you think about, just putting those two together, forget about all the delineations between them. But if you could just go to somewhere else, like we just talked about, and go to another place in time and do a different outcome, how much could that possibly ripple forward?
That's the big question. Will the ripples just be consumed by everything else in time and they'll smooth out? Or will you change something that will last forever and have forever? Will I have even though I go back in time and I change what I did, would changing it eradicate from my mind the lesson I learned from it? Because I wiped it out and kept it from happening. Or would I retain that? Would I become that this was a story I wrote once? It was a screenplay. It dealt with time travel and other things, but these people who became constants outside the stream of time. And so they could go back and meet their younger self and change something, but they would never lose the memory that they had in their own timeline. So, that's something that I wrote that like 30 years ago. So I've thought about this stuff for a while. I've never, here's the big question. We opine about this stuff. We talk about this stuff. We philosophize and not so much debate it, but we talk about these things. Is it even relevant to talk about? Is it something that's ever a possibility? Is it ever possible beyond just what we do with our minds and our brains, which we talked about last time? Is it ever possible to go beyond that? Will we ever have that opportunity to travel backward and forward in time, physically, literally? Like so many movies and television shows we've seen. So is it irrelevant to talk about it? It's only in the fantasy realm. It's like talking about a transporter on Star Trek.
Well, that's only irrelevant if you don't find, if your curiosity isn't piqued and your imagination isn't then
Right.
followed. I mean, for me, shit like that, there's more real. So let me just do a little quick rant here. I'm sorry. I'll slide this in. So
I just won't cork down my mic.
So the information source, which is the fundamental aspect of informatica, and I've got shows on the YouTube channel. We start dissecting it, but that informatica, everything is information. Okay, yes. And if you are not paying attention to what's known as, you don't have to go study it, but you have to be aware that there's this category in the sciences called metrology. And metrology is where all of the standards and the metrics are maintained. So however science is measured, however whatever is measured, it comes from from metrology, which then has its influences in all the other places that you would expect to have, non-governmental and even governmental organizations involved in. But I digress. The point is that metrology is the body of information. That's what everything is. Everything is measured. Everything has a metric attached to it. Once you have just that awareness, then you can understand why crazy people, sorry, folks, but the metric system is bullshit, okay? It needs to go away. It's because it's outside of the sacred geometry of the way that we function. And the original geometry is based on that. So, kind of there you go. And by the way, I know you're getting close, but you haven't put any men on the moon. The Imperial English metrics measurement system won. Okay. All right. Now, having said that, once you get to a point where you understand the metrics of the matrix, because it's all in some kind of measurement field, then you can start entertaining, especially when you see the full spectrum, because that's one of the problems is that there's an amazing amount of information that is not generally known, let alone accessed, that is real time and is amazing, that demonstrates a complexity of reality that is something far beyond what our current science models, physics models in particular, can account for, because there's a continual wait a minute, we didn't expect this, so now we have to come up with things like dark matter and dark energy to explain what we're seeing, because our models didn't account for it, yet there it is, right, in the observations. So I was going down a path to time travel. So once you get to that point, and this is completely my spew, right? Once you get to that point of where you realize that there's metrics in the matrix, there's a lot of consistency of it and within it. And there are fundamentals, habits, natures, cycles, dependabilities on construct, definition, delineation, distinction, all those good things. There's a whole boatload of that if you go look at it, especially when you are using an observationally neutral examination and analysis of it. Once you get to that fundamental, now you get all these great, we were talking, I think it was last night. By the way, thanks for hijacking music into politics. You know, we had a lot of fun last night.
We did. Yeah. The psychology of music turned into something totally different last night.
It was
Scotch and cookies. It turned into scotch and cookies.
Yeah, societal rant.
Yes.
So anyway, my point is this.
You go on, Professor. I'm going to step away for 2 seconds. I can still hear you, but you go ahead and keep talking. I'm just going to grab my glasses.
I will fill the airspace for you. You're welcome.
Right on.
So my point is this. When it comes to the topic of time travel, you have to look at the various aspects of what that actually means. And at a fundamental level, we just went through that. Scotty would love to go back. I'm sure everybody would think, yeah, there's something I'd like to do over again.
As
right?
if I
I've
was
thought about
never
it many
gone.
times.
Right. But absent the ability to travel in time, and it's not in time, just time, it's in space. It's time and space. You're looking to go back to a certain frequency set, a signature that is ingrained in the way that you perceive it in your mind, which is not the brain. The mind is where consciousness and the brain, the organ, interact. But the mind is completely separate from that organ. Okay. And that's just my
No,
point.
I believe that too. I think that is correct.
So when you think about traveling in time, you're looking for a signature. You're looking for, old time radio is just perfect. We first got the whole AM, FM dial-in frequency thing. It's like, that's what's going on.
Little box
You can't
back there
see
is-
any of that. Right. And when
Right.
TV came out, you look at it and you go, well, nobody's seeing any of the frequencies that are available in the air, yet they are there. And if you have the right device to receive them, particularly, your 9-year-old ass up there holding on to the rabbit ears or putting, foil on something, did you have any sense that there was this thing in the air that if you tuned into it, no matter what your tool set or foibles were, you finally got it dialed in, it was there. And all of a sudden it appeared on this device, and you had sound and you had visuals and you had this ability to see something that you wouldn't have been able to see before. Okay. In the consciousness realm, in my view, the frequency set is set by consciousness. The frequency set manifests in energy and the materium. Every time it manifests, it creates an instant of itself. It creates a signature, a frequency signature that says, poof, I have become. That becoming is what we experience as reality. So everything that we think can become, and a lot of times without knowing it, it does what we want. What we imagine, the reassemblage of energy within within consciousness to manifest that which we see.
Aren't you just talking about the way we live in the present, in the current moment, which is really all we have? We don't have past moments. We have memories. We don't have future. We have aspirations or fears. We've got the moment. We live in the moment. We live in the here, the now. So what you're talking about is just what we do to manifest our next moment. Anyway, it's not really a time travel thing.
Well, and that's one of the crazy thoughts that I have had for a while now, and I toss it out there gently because it's kind of like, wait a minute. So for a long time, I've had this premise that there is no positive and negative. There's only positive, because the realization of a negative event is a positive reaction. So
hey, let me just jump in here right away. With all of you guys keep trying to call into the show, not in the chat room. Don't bother right now. We're not going to take calls during the show time while we're on the radio. So if you want to talk, stick around for the captain's cabin after the end of the show. All right, Professor, go ahead.
So the interaction that we have with reality is something that is always a positive event, and it has varying levels and degrees of positivity based on your awareness of the positive of the event. So it's got its own inherent natural feed of itself, because it is when people think of the term positive, the main generic experience of that word is something that resonates well, whatever it could be. It doesn't matter the circumstances or the situation, but there's a general sense of more of a not necessarily relaxed, but relaxed could be the result of something positive. But you have all kinds of different delineations of feelings that you associate with that word positive. So,
okay.
So back up 50,000, and we're looking down on this now. So when consciousness expresses itself, which is reality, and there is no scientific definition, hundreds, if not thousands, of delineations, distinctions, definitions, and delineations of what that means, the source, etc. One of my favorites is may the source of the force guide your course, right? And it's interesting, at least in English, that has a nice rhythmic.
In Arabic, that sounds totally different,
right? But they have some of the same things, right?
Yes.
Dude, what with a horse? What?
So if you think of consciousness as that of all, it is the reality which is reality. It's the same concept of the Tao. That which cannot be named is, or can be named, is not the Tao, right? There's this essence, a nature of existence that provides for that which we experience. It seems to be harmonically frequency tuned for us to manifest and have this experience. Now, that's my experience, and there's a boatload of belief systems, theologies, philosophies, and all kinds of things that explain that, or give a definition to it from their perspective. And I think almost all of them have a piece of the truth. And that's not even talking about the mystery schools and mystic arts and all the other different sources of information about what reality really is that are available. But unless you examine them and add them to your stack, you're not going to be aware of them. You're going to go, well, that metaphysical shit can't happen. And that's where time travel and dimensional shit starts to become a reality.
Okay. Time travel and dimensional shift is dependent wholly on consciousness, is what you're saying.
In my opinion, yes.
I'm trying to just funnel it all down into as few words as possible, just for understanding. So, consciousness.
Geometry.
Can you build a time tunnel like in the old 1960s campy TV show, where you can walk into the time tunnel, or can you build one in a DeLorean or a 67 Buick? I mean, can a time traveling device be built? Do we have the physical capability to that? Are we talking that time travel can only really be limited to the limits of our consciousness?
I'm beginning to think that the time tunnel concept is more believable than the time machine, like a DeLorean or the Victorian chair or whatever, because the planet is moving, the solar system is moving within the galaxy, everything's moving. And I think that you have to start from a fixed point take all that geometry into effect and calculate all that, because you're not just hitting a point in time, you're hitting a specific point in space where we are no longer at.
That was my point earlier. I completely agree. I mean, it's not time travel and just time. It's time and space.
Yeah.
And you have to go back to a frequency set. And this is, interestingly enough, at least from my meanderings of my mind, when people talk about the definition of what they call the Akashic records, where everything is, right? So, Casey talked about it. There's been some amazing stuff that seems extremely compelling, if not credible, about that model of a universal database, okay, or a cosmic code. Okay?
I agree with that.
Right. And so there seems to be, at least in what I've seen, some compelling stuff that kind of makes sense. And it's certainly worth further inquisition, research, curiosity, and imagination than what appears to be, at least on the surface, being given to it. Because the compelling, the whole aspect of psychic phenomena, that in the consciousness, which in all of the sciences, the biological, the chemical, the technical, all of the different sciences where they're examining what happens when thought and awareness and consciousness occurs. The tests and the data are just deep. They've got all kinds of stuff. And the analysis of those studies and research is freely open for the most part for people to go look at, and you can start seeing some very interesting things. And this is the thing. I'm just going to close off and take a little left turn here. You can't, as I said last night, I think, if I'm not mistaken, if anything is more clear than this, I would be interested to hear and know what that might be. But in my view, in my opinion, if anything that has happened over the last 3 to 5 years, throw an extra 10 plus in there if you want to get some real dirty details. But in the last 3 to 5 years, there's been this massive change and push in psychology. And that's been primarily driven by the intense and effective A+ use of emotional narrative about things that you don't really have any kind of sense of. Never really comes up in my life. I'd kind of like to leave it. Y'all go figure it out, right? But you get to this point where, if I'm looking at time travel, I would say the first most conclusive experience that I have in evidence of time travel is listening to music that I grew up with. Because in my mind, when I hear that music, I'm there.
In my mind, I'm going to Carolina. Well, that's the thing. That's all in the mind. That's all the mental. That's not when you theorize about time travel, or theorize or speculate or philosophize even about time travel. Most people are talking about physical, I step from here into there, a time and space
here
continuum disruption, if you will. And the Matt Finn and Sarah Yusuf talked about the Einstein-Rosen bridge, or wormholes in the chat room. That physical displacing of yourself from this time to another time. And
I would even be okay if we're talking astral projection back into the past. Where
I was going to bring up astral projection.
Where you're physically.
And would you tie that to the Akashic model, David?
Well, I don't know if it's tied to the Akashic model.
Well, what I'm saying is that if, and because I that made me stop and think, okay, how does that, or could that attach to?
I think what's happening when you're astral projecting, I think that's the ability for your soul to literally leave the body,
detach
your
the physical,
detach. So your physical meat suit is back there on the bed or wherever you're at when you do your astral projection, and you're tethered with the silver cord, and you are literally traveling to wherever you want to go. And in that being of being the energy being, you can be anywhere you want in thought and in time or place. So I think you could travel that way, but you're not in a corporeal form when you're back there.
You're incorporeal.
Yeah.
Right. Now, that's what I was wondering. If you could, now, has not this been experimented with already? That idea of astral projection applied to time travel. Ryan Gale, by the way, had just entered the chat room. He said, how about the chronovisor? Is that a real thing? I have never heard of the chronovisor.
Well, actually, that might be. How much time do we have left, Scotty?
Oh, is that the guy that was doing that? We got about...
That was the Catholic
guy. Roughly 14 minutes left.
Okay, so let me share, just to get back onto the whole space of time travel. I've got like 5 screens I want to share with you, and I think that it will give us some.
Are any of these copyrighted?
No. This is all websites and all that, and there's
because YouTube is giving me fits lately. Just about anything I put up, they want to demonetize me.
So. And I want to know if this if the audio plays when we get to that. All right, you got that there?
There it is. Here, I'm going to take down the show banner because it's just blocking things right now. Let's turn that off. There we go.
So John Tedor is one of the infamous in the time travel space, right? And this guy came back apparently to get some information from a computer that was required in order for them to understand the catastrophes and shit that was going to happen in the future, so they could possibly change it. Now, a lot of documentation, lots been written and produced on this. Interesting story. If you're not aware of it, check it out. Now, another one is Andrew Bessaggio. He's the one with the Project Pegasus, and his claim, he's a lawyer, incredibly intelligent. Listen to his interview and you go, the guy may not be he may not be accurate, but he's telling the truth from his perspective, right?
So, well, and you have to ask, why would he jeopardize everything he has,
right,
to just make up a bunch of BS,
right? And
that's
the details are fascinating. Here is one of the most profound. I've seen that, right? This is apparently him at the Gettysburg Address, and he had described, see how big the shoes are. He described the whole thing, and this has not been debunked from anybody who's said, there's no way.
That is from the Gettysburg Address. Now, I have seen photos where they've enhanced this photo a little bit to try to see what was actually there, what he was actually wearing. And he did not look too different from the clothing of the day once you got there. I wish I had that picture on hand. It's that it's fuzzy, and I think almost deliberately fuzzy in some presentations of this photo, because I've seen this photo coming up in a non-discussion of time travel as a picture that's part of Gettysburg, and it's a lot cleaner than this. So I don't know what to think about that. I have to just put my skeptical mind into play when I see that and say, has this been tampered with? Is it trying to sell an agenda or a narrative of their own? So I don't know, and I'm not criticizing it from that. I'm just asking that question. Because
Yeah,
I've
I
seen
mean,
other.
It's really easy. Speaking from from as a historic costumer, okay, that's the perfect period to go back to. It's basically the beginning of store-bought
modern clothing.
Okay, so the suit hasn't really changed silhouette much since then, and breeches and shirts and all that stuff. Even if you had a modern day button-up shirt, if you're wearing a waistcoat over it and a coat, no one would know.
That's right.
No one would know.
Now, it looked to me, I don't know if you can see my mouse on here, maybe not. I'm circling the boy's head if you can see my mouse.
Looks like he's wearing a derby.
That hat looks an awful lot like the guy that's just to his right. Just a little different style when I saw a zoomed up, cleaner version of this.
From the small version I see, it looks like a derby. Are you saying it's more like a soft cap?
It could be a soft cap. It looks like what you would typically think of as a kid's soft cap. Not a derby, not that fine
and soft caps were period then, and easily accessible even today.
Sure.
So,
but what I saw was they were claiming that look at his clothes. His clothes are modern, and I looked at it and said, well, his clothes aren't really modern.
Well, have you heard any of his interviews? Have you listened to him?
I have not.
Okay. I have.
I have had him friend me on social media before, but and I had conversations before I knew who he was, and now I don't think he's even
well worth the time. So just
I need to listen to his.
Look for some because the man is, when people speak, persuasion, clarity, succinctness, all the shit that I can't figure out is something that is really important. And when you hear somebody do that, it's notable. I mean, it's something that you go, well, they can actually communicate.
I agree with you. He believes what he's saying.
Oh, absolutely.
Right.
Yeah, I don't believe that he's stringing a line of BS and trying to sell somebody, a horse that's not his. He believes what he's saying. And again, I go back to, why would he risk his reputation and everything he's accomplished on a
that's a big question. If you believe in what you're saying, it's not a risk to you. I'm just casting the little bit of doubt.
It is a risk to you, but the point
he's in a profession where one has to be believable.
He's a lawyer.
Right. Right.
And he tried to run for president in, was it 2012 or 2016?
Oh, see, now I just lost credibility with me.
but my point is that here's one person's account of a time traveling experience that has very specific, very interesting, aside from his credibility and the way that he presents his case and his memory. I mean, you go, yeah, he did that.
Yep.
Yeah.
There's no ambiguity to it whatsoever. And that therein lies the importance of being able to sell a story, right?
Yes.
Now, whether you believe it or not, and you think about all of the fanciful, I mean, he's not only did this, but on a regular basis, he was making trips between, I think it was Texas and Delaware, doing basically teleportation.
Now, did he ever explain why he only went to those places? Lincoln's Gettysburg.
Well, it was a part of the program that he was in.
Okay. But did he not also go to Mars?
I believe so, yes.
What did he say about Mars?
And he's the one that's got the story. And this is like, you look at this kind of information and you go, okay, let me just park this in the pot and turn up the flame a little bit and see what comes out. He is one who met Obama before Obama was even into politics, and had a conversation with Obama knowing that he was going to be president.
Okay.
All right. Now you sit there and you go, how in the hell could that happen? So instead of dwelling too much, how much time we got, Scotty?
We got about 6 minutes left, 5 minutes.
Okay,
left.
so let me kind of throw a couple of nuggets on the table. We'll knock them around and see where we go with them.
Joyce said she heard he went to Mars with Obama, by the way.
Yeah, I think I heard a story
Thank
about
you, Joyce.
Obama on that trip, but I'm not sure.
I'll
Anyway,
explain in a second, Ryan.
Yeah, how does he
anyway,
say
so
he did it? Stick around for the captain's cabin after the show, folks. We're going to still talk about it. We're going to keep going with this.
so
Go ahead, Professor.
So the mechanical science.
Oh, damn it. I just turned off his shared screen with the photo, and it took him out too. I didn't know it would do that.
We'll wait for him
No
to call
callback.
back in.
Sorry about that, Prof. So
in the meantime, so Ryan, what he has is, or he was his father was part of a government program, and so subsequently they brought in him as well. And I can't remember the story behind why they picked him, but he was not the only kid that they picked, and they were pretty much all children of people that were already working in the program. And like I said earlier, they had a room that was set up to do this time travel thing. It was very large. It was a fixed point in time that they would travel through. It's not like a device you carry with you, and they could send you there and they could bring you back. And
yes.
So it's not like, hey, I'm gonna push this button on my wristwatch and I'm gonna go 200 years back or whatever. It's more like the time tunnel, where you have a fixed time machine and you go through the portal.
Okay. Now, is that what he said he did?
Yes, that's it. And he goes into great detail in it. The last time I heard him in one of his lectures about it was maybe 15 or 20 years ago.
Wow. By the way, did Professor Bauer not realize I had lost him?
he's just out there.
He's talking. Still going. Yeah. So see, and I didn't know that. I didn't know that's how he explained how he did it. I am Sean Stroik, for as tongue-in-cheek a comment as it is. Sean Stroik brings up a very good point, and that point is, if he's not getting the Powerball numbers, winning numbers, he's not doing something right. If I had the ability to travel in the future and come back,
I would be
would I grab the Powerball numbers? Why not?
You know what I think I would do? I would go back and quietly invest in startups like, this kid in the garage, it's building.
Yeah.
You need a couple $1,000. Sure, I'll put 20,000 into that. Help you out. I would do that sort of thing, because you would fly under the radar of the government, because you're just giving investment money to startups who really aren't anything yet. If you go out onto the market and you're like, you pop in there in 1955 or whatever and buy 100,000 shares of Coke, you're going to start showing up. But if you go hit the startup, you hit Apple Computer when they were starting, you come back to the present where suddenly the whole planet's ruled by Borg. That's what you're gonna do. But you know what I'm saying?
Dave Potter.
By investing in the startup or the beginning of something before it's on the market and before everybody knows what it is, just like going back and talking to Ray when he's starting McDonald's and saying, I'll pump $1 million into that for this percentage.
Yep.
And I'm not ever going to sell those shares. I just want those to continue to roll over. If the stock doubles, it rolls over. And then you come into the future, suddenly you own 40% of McDonald's, you're wealthy.
Yeah. Well, that would work, we think.
I mean, my life be different if I was wealthy. 6 points in my life, and there are specific places where I made a choice to go left or right, and I know that, so if I went back and I didn't ask Sheila to marry me, well, then that would have changed all of these domino effects in my life that followed after that. Or if I had not gone on the road and met Amy in the first place, then there's a whole series of things that happen after that those people would be out of my life.
Right. Well, and I look at things too. When I was in the Marines, what would have happened if I was able to stay in the Marines? What if I had stayed in the Marines? I had an option to go into the advertising department for the Marine Corps in Washington, D.C., or go home, and because of the medical discharge. And I chose going home because I lined up a job already. And so what if I had stayed there and met somebody there and gotten married there, never met Annette?
Well, and
I would
you and I
never
wouldn't
have my
met,
twin
and
daughters,
all
never met
that
Rainey.
divergence, all that stuff wouldn't have happened. So
yeah, there's a lot of things that wouldn't happen if I changed my past. So what was it? Sean Stroik? Was it you who said, or was it Sean Bowden who said something about? There he is. Said something about Stephen King's novel 1963. Sorry about that, Professor. I axed you by accident.
Hey, I was waiting for the hook, man.
So we've
had enough of him for tonight.
We were debating. Did you just go on for 20 minutes talking without realizing you were off the air?
Oh,
right.
That rant was.
Hey guys,
epic.
Hold on a second. I just have to say to the radio audience with no fanfare, live long and prosper. We're out of here in about 1 second. Boom. Okay, we're gone from the radio. We didn't do the fanfare or anything because I lost track of the time. So we are now off radio. It's time to swear up a blue streak, boys. Let's go at it.
Oh man! I'm ready to get my cunning linguistics out and just lick it all around.
There it is. Kangaroo burgers, says Joyce. Are you serious? Joyce, by the way, it's great seeing you. I don't know if you've been here off and on, just haven't made your presence known. Great to see you. Years I've known her. So there. Now I can also take off my headset because we are off air over at the radio and I'm no longer streaming, so I don't have the feedback. So I'm glad you're with us, Joyce. And hey, Naked ND, our AI help you find perfect match. Stop trying, dude. But it's probably just set on a bot. So don't need what you're selling. Well, maybe somebody does. Field guy? No, I'm kidding. That's a joke, field guy. Don't go ape shit. So
Uncle Dan likes you very, very much.
I would like you.
Love you a long time.
Very much. Meet my AI date. Yeah. That's the they've got the Christian dating service. They have all kinds of the old people dating service, the young people dating service. Now they've got the AI dating service.
Yeah, I've never dated a robot. I don't know if I'd like it.
I can't block them. This software will not let me block that user. So keeps giving me an error.
Dave, that brings up a question in my mind about the whole idea of dating on technology. Dating, at the fundamental level is what? Is searching or exploring at least a potential relationship, right?
Yeah.
So when you explore a potential relationship, you go check it out, right? Depending on what your criteria and what your filters and your framework define for what's acceptable to you, you go out and you seek that. Now, I'm going to try to tie. We're in the cabin, right?
Yeah, we're in the cabin now.
Oh well, shit. Okay,
we are off.
All right. Well, shit. Let me unbutton something here. Okay. All right. Let me get ready.
And let me just say, when do you think they're going to develop? If AI technology can do all that stuff they're doing now, when are they going to develop AI that's like replicants in Blade Runner or something like that, where you can't tell the difference from humans?
Well, you already have silicone sex bots and stuff, basically.
You've got what? So you went
silicone sex bots that are coming out of Japan.
Silicone? Is that what's that? Just a glorified blow-up doll?
Well, it's
made out of silicone.
Yeah, it's silicone, you fool. They're anatomically correct, and they have robotics, basically animatronics built into them. It's crazy.
Yeah, I just don't put them in water.
Yeah.
So I've got a little rant on this because I'm a geezer geek and
all right,
been
go
doing
ahead.
This shit for a while. I'll try to keep it succinct. And again, this goes back to this whole the informatica point that I was making, and the language is your operating system of your mind, and how important words are.
Okay.
Because words are what frame the reality you perceive. And even though you're going to perceive shit that's outside of what the words that you've been given to account for, you're going to experience all kinds of shit, and you're going to go looking around and, well, what do people say about this experience, right? And that curiosity sends you into this, you're hopefully a fertile field of imagination. Your curiosity goes in there and starts looking for stuff, and you try to figure out things. That's part of why we're having this conversation on time travel. It's like consciously, whether you look at it from a dimensional physics perspective, or you look at it from a cosmic conscious perspective, and as I do, I'm a pantheist, or I like panpsychism, which means that all things that are there and defined are a part of the whole. Not any one is individually or specifically correct. It's just a part of that. It's a part of what is. Okay. So when I look at reality and the experience of consciousness in that way, the next thing I go is, okay, so if there is these concepts of these multi-dimensional aspects of reality, other universes, other omniverses, ultraverse, whatever it might be, there's this potential for the same experience you're having to exist in infinite modalities, all with their own you, but not you.
Okay.
And you go, all right, well, that's pretty out there. And I can imagine, I can conceptualize what that might look like, but that's just subjective to me. What's more interesting to me are the things that have empirical data, things that demonstrate the non-locality of consciousness. The mind being the place, in my opinion, the mind is where consciousness and our biology, our chemistry meet, and they organize through this organ known as the brain.
Okay.
Consciousness and mind don't need the organ of the brain for us to manifest.
They're just housed here. Where do they go? What do they do?
Where it happens.
What does my consciousness do if it's not working through my brain?
Well, the brain is the physical intersection of the physical morality, or the physical, not morality, the physical manifestation. The mind is more connected to that frequency signature of the individuality that we all are as a part of consciousness. We have our own frequency set, our own frequency signature. So there's a stamp, if you will, that occurs, just like there's a stamp for Earth, stamp for Sun, solar system, everything else. So everything has a signature.
Okay.
Now, as it relates to time travel, it seems to me the data that I find some of the most profound stuff, and let me share a couple of more screens here, and you will, I think, get an idea of what I'm talking about.
All right.
Okay. And don't worry about any of this.
Strain my copyright.
Nope. This is all articles and freely on YouTube. So,
all right.
And it doesn't have any music. Music is where they fuck with you. So,
yep.
Let's see. Share screen. Okay. Audio. All right. Do you see that there?
Yes, I do. There it is.
All right. So, Nostradamus. Let's talk about time travel.
All right. I'm not, I get,
wait a minute.
I get worn out on Nostradamus, but
wait a minute. I'm talking about the general thing of what he did. Prophecy. Prophecy is fucking everywhere.
Yep.
What is prophecy? Wouldn't you consider it looking into the future?
I wouldn't call it time travel, but I would call it maybe that's in the line. Dave, did I cut you off? Were you going to say something like this? Did that have something to do with the astral projection type of?
Yeah, it depends on how he did it. If he was scrying, did he astrally project? Did he have some way to physically go forward in time and look at things and then come back and talk about what he saw? That's the question, is how he did it.
And the same question for me applies to Edgar Casey. I mean, these guys demonstrated non-locality. Now, let me clarify that term.
Okay.
The fundamental aspect of non-locality of consciousness means that your consciousness is not attached to your biological chemical manifestation. That's where astral projection comes from. That's where psychic, clairvoyant, clairaudient, all the different aspects of our ability to tune into frequencies that are there that we're not normally kind of set up for. Okay. But we can enhance and attune them to be more resonant with that which is. And when you can hear, it's like for my audio production stuff, I mean, I can feel 20 hertz. Most people can't. I can hear it, particularly with my studio. And that experience is just even more rich than what you would normally hear. And particularly what is being made in the sonic realm these days. But my point is this. So somehow, like you were saying, Dave, whether he was scrying or he was using different substances, chemicals, concoctions, whatever, he was in a divining sense, because these are all divining tools. Divining meaning you're looking into some field of metrics, whether it's tarot, astrology, numerology, the I Ching, it doesn't matter. They're all different ways to delineate and divine into those energies, which are a part of our reality.
But I think whatever he was doing, he was clearly seeing more than just doing tarot cards. He visually describes things as though he were seeing them. Right. And he's very accurate about that. Okay. Right. When we look at those quatrains, we're like, oh, well, he totally pegged that. And he totally pegged. I think Jules Verne also had this ability. Yes. Jules Verne writes about things that there was no concept of nuclear submarines in his day. And yet he very accurately describes nuclear submarines.
Right. And not only Da Vinci, but Scotty, you and I owe each other a round in the ring on the Abydos, yes, we do. On the Abydos helicopter. Okay.
Oh yeah,
We've talked about that for a couple of months.
Oh, I got to do a whole episode on that next week now.
But my point is this: regardless of the divination tools or techniques that are used by those who have apparently done divination into the future, apparently, at least in my opinion, that qualifies as time travel.
Well, and I agree, because this goes back to the astral projection thing. I think that that's time travel if you're going to the future or to the past and you can relate what you saw.
And retrieving information.
You may not physically be there in a corporeal form, but if you're able to bring back that information and be accurate about it, I think that counts as time travel.
Yeah, makes sense to me. Opinion. If you can bring something back with you, I would love to go with a camera.
Yep. Well, but let's look at, there's a whole
remote
bunch
viewing,
of cases.
Scott Allen, yep.
There's the individual who stepped off a curb in New York City and was from a totally different century.
Yeah.
And
I remember that story.
And
now, has that story been qualified or quantified, by the way?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Because it's a great story.
It is a great story. And then you have the incident of the guy who says he found a portal in a cabinet in his kitchen and met himself like 20 or 30 years in the future.
Is that the guy that he's the one that was the plumber that went through underneath the sink?
Yeah, I think it was under the sink.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm like,
has a photograph of himself with the same tattoo, but he's 20 years older and all that. Interesting stuff. It's
so that's for me is the is the fascinating discourse, exploration, examination of what these things actually could be, because at a minimum, regardless of all of the deceit and trickery and fucking around with this and that, as far as images and videos and audios and everything else, the plethora of information, if you can weed through it and get your bullshit meter going, you can get to the nut of the nugget, which is the first principles stuff that I keep chirping on about. Right. And once you get down to that nut, and then you get to the nut and forget all the other shit that's been piled on it. And then you can back out of it and you can go, I see what the fuck you guys are doing. Oh, these guys, it was good stuff, but there's some problems in that. Regardless, if you have an interdisciplinary talent stack, in other words, different things that you can do because you've done them, then you have a better chance of sorting through that which is and that which isn't. Right. So, for example, if there's one thing, and all you need to do is look at China and India in particular. And I used to recruit for the technology space for consultants and professionals that could do either systems or processes, consulting and engineering. And these people are getting a couple $100 an hour, right, on 6-9 month projects. The majority of the people I could find were, and this is back in the early 2000s, the majority of the people I could find to fill these that had the qualifications to fill these were Indians and Chinese. They'd pay even more for good old gringos, but they just weren't available. They just weren't there. So the engineering that goes into those aspects of, those skill sets is the piece that is the most important thing that's missing, in my opinion. But let's go back to time travel, shall we? So in time travel, in time travel, the traveling in time, and we all agree that it's missing the most important thing, which is space. I think that when you see non-local expressions of conscious data acquisition, let's put it that way. Oh, and so let me circle back real quick. Earlier, I was going to say that I said that there is no positive, and I think I mentioned this. There's no positive and negative, only positive, because the reaction to a negative event is a positive thing. Okay, so it's cyclical. So the other piece of that is that time, as in now, is always the future. We aren't living in the present or past. We're always living in the future and dragging whatever filter we want from the past slipping to our future and filtering our future through that.
Okay.
So this being in the now is actually being in the future, because we're always predicting, anticipating, thinking about, based on the situational analysis, our sus in situ, checking out what's going on right where we are, which is the now. But that now is always moving. It's always in the future. So if you realize that, then your processing, your mental processing model, in my opinion, improves in its efficiency, because you're able to go, oh, that's what's going on. Oh, that's what's going on. Oh, that's what's going on. With less of it, and you look at it from that objective neutrality as you're examining that which is, because that which is what you're experiencing. So,
yes, that's all I can say to that. I threw up Catherine Best's post here, talking about OBEs. Hard to discern whether it's OBEs or weird time travel when she sleeps and she has some of these things. So, I am reminded of a movie that was about time travel without you really thinking of it as a time travel movie. It was I think it came out around 2000 because
Time Traveler's Wife.
Uncle Dave, you'll get the time period it came out. I was hanging with Anita Kane all the time.
Okay.
So that was 2000, and I think it was called Family Man with Nicolas Cage, and
yes,
he's a big time Wall Street, Wolf of Wall Street type of guy, and he and his girlfriend several years earlier, 15 years earlier, had parted ways at the airport, never saw each other again. And he became this Wolf of Wall Street and financial mogul. And he's given this snapshot by somebody, Don Cheadle plays an angel in that, and gives him a snapshot of what his life would be like had he not left on the plane that day. And
it's in many ways it's kind of like
A Wonderful Life.
A Wonderful Life
In a different way. But he's going back, he's taken back, and he's shown what his life, he's got a wife, he's got kids, he's got, and all this. And then it comes, it really, if you haven't seen it, I don't want to give it away, but because it's a sweet movie. But there's
no spoilers on a 20-year-old film.
Say that again?
No spoilers on a 20-year-old film.
No spoilers. If anybody hasn't seen it, but he does at the end, he doesn't want to go back. He doesn't want to lose what he originally lost in exchange for everything he had become, rich, wealth, position, prestige.
But see, this is where I kind of look at multiple timelines. There are 4 or 5 instances in my life where I came this close to death and easily could have died. And so I look at that and say, okay, on another timeline, I'm sure I died there, or I'm sure I died there.
Or did you come back from the future and prevent yourself from being killed? Well, how could you come back from the future if you were already dead?
Well,
so,
there's a video that where the guy, I don't know if you've seen this, but there's a guy standing on a street. A guy who looks almost identical to him walks up behind him, taps him on the shoulder as he walks by, and he turns as this big piece of steel comes swinging towards his face, and he's able to get out of the way. Why did that guy tap him on the back? There was no reason to tap him on the back at the time because that piece of steel wasn't on its way then.
Have you seen those videos from, I think the most famous one is from China, where it's this big intersection, and it's the regular street cams.
Yep.
And this guy's out here on his rickshaw, and he comes in, and somebody snatches his ass, moves him to the side of the road, and then materializes.
Just as the truck, yeah.
Now, a lot of those, some of them have been amazing, and a lot of them have been, even coughed to, let alone debunked. Where guys are going, yeah, I made that. The one with the plane making a landing coming in. He's like, no, I did that all. And everybody thought that was real as shit.
CGI.
But
may I say, fuck those guys. You see some great stories like that, and you go, why'd you just do that? I'm pretty savvy when it comes to CGI and digital stuff, and you had me. Why? I want to beat you up.
Because it's there. You're not the typical one that's targeted to, and the people that are gonna, soak that up, or
but it's just teaching us to not even trust our own eyes, and that's a dangerous slope.
I think it's an opportunity to improve our eyes, because there's so much content.
But when you can get down to the pixelization levels, and you know how it works and what makes things work, you can do anything you want. And
but you can still have discernment.
It's real. You make it real.
And the most important thing that you have to have discernment, and discernment needs to be structured in a way that it fits within the paradigm and the framework of the world that you experience. So you have to have discernment is the first thing of consciousness, because while we're standing here in the now, but in the future, We are making a judgment, a prediction with the information that we have that's currently in flow of what will be next. And we pursue accordingly, depending on how, what parts of our belief systems animate certain aspects of our behavior more than others, because that's what the whole science of one, the whole the theology, the belief systems, the mystics, the mystic arts, the mystery schools, I mean, all have certain aspects of reality that are observed and regularly observed speculation. Right. So we all, we adopt whichever one seems to work or resonate with us. So the language within that philosophy or that belief system is now and this is what happened to me. I was raised through the traditional Judeo-Christian Methodist, Baptist, and eventually Pentecostal, and then fundamentalist. But that was the framework within the reality that I was told existed, that I existed in. Once I examined that and then started asking questions, there was issues with the answers, because when the majority of the responses, you just have to believe, you have to have faith. I went, I'm feeling there's a little more to this particular subject than faith is going to satiate. Okay. So that led me down the path of more exploration, because now my curiosity's up. I'm going, oh, wait a minute. This was something that explains some of my experiences. But when I got down to the core of how they actually, what was their nature? What was their habit? How did they work? The answers were not satiating. I had to go, okay, I need to go continue my journey and look about. So when I found the I Ching and Taoism in the mid-90s, it was through learning Tai Chi and then getting into a particular school that was based in my hometown. And the experience I had with learning energy from Tai Chi and the I Ching and the Tao had more resonance with my experience than anything else I had explored or been presented with. And I went, oh, there's no hierarchy. There's just is. And it's how you are with the is that makes a difference in your experience with the is. Because is it, and it has its nature and its habit. So it's very fundamental. There's a yin and a yang. There's cyclical flow. There's creation and consumption. There is this natural order of stuff. It's the way that it works. And I went, okay, well, that really makes sense to me, because my experiences seems to be of that nature. That's what's happening. So to throw time travel back into this, if you have the ability to be one with what it is, and then you learn that what it is has all these different characteristics, all these different ways in which it expresses itself, everything from the physical consciousness and our physical reality to our esoteric, to that which is outside of the brain and is a part of the mind, which is the result of consciousness. You have all these astral travel, remote viewing, non-local consciousness, clairvoyance, you have all these expressions of these things that happen within consciousness. It's been written about for millennia. And it is a part of not only the nature and habit, but it's the way in which the universe functions. So if you can say, I know a frequency, I know a timestamp, a frequency signature of space and time that I want to go back to, how do I do that? Can I do it? Come
on in, Sarah.
Can I do it with a device? Can I do it with my mind? Which is the non-local aspect of it? Mm-hmm. And then there's a whole nother thing. I'm going to share one more thing with you.
All right.
And this is on Facebook, and it's not copyrighted.
All right.
So we're okay. All right. So really looking forward to your thoughts on this.
Wow,
And tell me if you can hear it.
Here we go.
Okay, we're recording.
Oh yes,
I've
I'm
seen
familiar
this.
with this.
Okay, yesterday you told us you traveled, and I quote, thousands of light years to get here. Yes. Tell us the truth, word for word, or never leave you. It is truth. So I take it aliens took over our future, right? So you're human.
So we lose all our hair and our eyes get big.
So what are you doing here now? How? Okay, so how about we concentrate on your time?
Lame answer. I hate that kind of answer. You are not able of comprehending.
Yeah, but it's probably more true than not.
Do you buy this? Do you think this is real?
I think the
Wait, so you know the meaning
it's
of what?
better than 50%, in my opinion.
Okay.
What's the difference?
And for a number of reasons. I think the guy doing the interview is a fucking idiot. He's a dick.
So
Well, which makes it more believable because it sounds like someone that works for the government.
Yeah.
Right?
The
So-
problem is in our government, we have people that are so narrow-minded and focused that they would ask
There
these
you go, there
stupid
you go,
questions
sir.
in this way.
what happens when we die?
You can't handle the truth. They say it is, Matthew Sainsbury. He said the very end of this video always makes me laugh. We'll see what happens. How long does this go, Professor?
Oh, it's got a couple of minutes, but
Okay, so
I think
14 minutes. Okay.
yeah, I think that the
Let's see the end. Give us the spoiler.
all right, let's go down here and see what happens.
So I see you live now. Oh, well, great. So just tell me his name and we'll go.
Excuse me. Does he not know that shoulder pads are out in men's suits?
Oh, his name is Biden.
Yeah. Others are going, oh, he's talking about Trump.
So this is, supposedly like 50 plus years ago,
Right.
and he's calling out exactly what's going on.
When did this video first surface?
I'm not sure of the.
3 years ago.
No, it's been out for a while. I've known him. I've seen
I
it
saw it
10
a few years ago. So.
Only a million lives.
That's right, sir. I forgot about that. Fashion recycles.
Okay, so how do we stop this?
You don't. Right?
Phew, that's good. Oh, wait, that was 50 years ago.
Right?
Okay, so if we stop this lunatic from blowing us up, we'll be fine, right? Wait, but you just said that if we stop him, we won't be destroyed. And what?
Uh-oh. He's
So-
losing it.
Yeah. So let me stop sharing here.
All right.
So that is very interesting, at least at a minimum. What's going on here?
I look at that and I say, it doesn't look real to me for certain. I find it highly dubious just from the surface, but I don't know anything about it. I don't know where it came from, who put it out, how it got released, how it got found in an old vault on Area 51 that somebody missed when they moved out. You know, it's like, is that what it is? What makes, not sure what makes them believe. No. That's the wrong way to say that. It feels like a hoax to me. Joyce said corporations are the threat. Well, maybe so. And you know, I wonder about that. So, I got nothing more to say on that. I've seen that video and I watched it and I thought that's kind of cool. Then I thought, it's too. If that were a living being that we were just watching, it would be. There are telltale signs that make it a little more animated than what you're seeing. So,
well, there's two aspects to it. One, I mean, from my perspective, I mean, it looks like if it was faked, it was well produced. They did a good job of creating something that looks authentic.
I have the ability to do that, though.
Yeah, but I think that I found the information that this thing said about the future and that they came from the future because data was destroyed, so they came back here to find this shit.
Which
Tedor.
Again is kind of lines up with what Tedor said too.
Right? That was exactly. So so that seems to be a theme. When you throw in the psychics like Nostradamus and whatever divination technique and tool he's using, scrying, incense, chemical, whatever, the Oracle of Delphi clearly getting some serious snorts from whatever was coming out of that cave.
Yeah.
Neil Armstrong.
Right.
When he talks about, when they have the open mic and he talks about there are several craft on the rim of the crater watching us, I believe those are time travelers coming back to watch a very pivotal moment in man's history.
Maybe
Which
so.
brings up the whole question of what is the moon? Is it actually a station? Is it actually inhabited?
I think it's hollow. I think it was created,
purposely put there.
I do think that when you look at the fact that the craters are only so deep and they don't make sense, whether they're miles across or feet across, they're the same depth.
Right.
If something was big enough to hit and make a 1.5 mile wide crater, you would think it would be deeper than a 50-foot crater. And when you look at craters on our planet, they show different depths and things like that based on their size.
Absolutely. So, how is...
Hey, Ellery.
Hi.
How
I
is...
just got that from Wendy's.
Oh, that's
at
nice.
10:35 at night. They just got back from Wendy's.
Oh, there you
I'm
go.
gonna stay up until the northern lights come.
Are there northern lights tonight?
Really? When it's this warm?
Mhm.
I didn't think this early in the year you could see them down here. Anyway.
Well, she's going to be up for a long time then.
Oh yeah.
I guess she'll be up till October.
She'll just be dragging in late September.
Who
Oh,
said you
God,
were going to see Northern Lights tonight?
Mom.
Okay. Well, then it must be true. Mom wouldn't tell you anything like that if it weren't true. Oh, you did. Shh, I won't tell. All right. Go eat your burger because that smells like a fast food restaurant. Take your fries with you.
I can't.
Sure you can. Watch this. Here. Watch it. No, you don't have to bend down a little bit. Here, watch. Put your finger around them. Right there. Tighten. There you go. Bye. Sometimes a fast food meal is okay once in a blue moon.
And sometimes it's just right.
And then when you're done with it, you go, why'd I eat that?
Yeah.
That's what that smells like. The after part. Why'd I eat that? So anyway, I saw Northern Lights in the daytime at Prudhoe Bay many years ago. Wow. Where's Prudhoe Bay?
At the polar cap someplace.
It's in the North Pole.
So I have to share my Northern Lights experience.
Please
1979. I had moved from Los Angeles to a homestead, 160 acres, quarter section, about 90 miles north of Calgary, in what they called the Parkland. And so we had square 160 acres, square a section, and it was on a road with
About 90 miles.
2 other farms, and at the end of those farms was the Red Deer River. And I could go out there. I had my combo fly, and I'd get out there and pull in 3, 4, 5 pound rainbow and golden trout, and I'm like, what is going on here? And was basically got spoiled. But one night, I think it was probably, we got there in August, and it was probably October, November. And we were living in a trailer, my wife and I. And we were laying there, and we had a Great Pyrenees, Lucas, who was our big mutt. And we saw some lights on the curtains of the trailer. So I pulled up my British 303 and pulled the curtains back, looking at it, going, what's going on out there? Because we're out in the middle of nowhere. There shouldn't be any lights anywhere. And I pulled the curtain back, and I looked up, and the sky was this green fluorescent waves of just undulating awesomeness. And so I went out. There was a 20-acre clearing right close to where the trailer was. So me and Lucas went out to the middle of this clearing, and we sat there and just looked up and watched this whole thing go on. And it was the closest thing that, and I had done, most of the psychedelic availabilities during the 70s in Los Angeles, and I'd never seen anything like sitting out there watching the Aurora Borealis. It was amazing.
Yeah, I've seen some amazing northern lights over the years.
I just want you to know, Dr. Ken Lewis here says that the FBI projects spiders and things to terrify me in my home to keep me contained. Thank you. We hope you make it through the night, Doc.
Evening, Sarah.
How you doing, Sarah?
Hey, guys. So, interesting talk tonight. We talked about different types of time travel, and I've been trying to blow up the chat a little bit. So it seems like there seem to be different, you're alluding to different types of actual time travel, and some it's, through consciousness, and then there's, physical time travel through, and then the time travel that, that I kind of ascribe to, the working theory that I have is based on physics. So let me just pull this up. It's a quick, I'm not pulling it in the room, but I'm just going to read this quick paragraph. It says if you want to advance through the years a little faster than the next person, you need to exploit space-time. Global positioning satellites pull this off every day, accruing 1/3 of a billionth of a second daily. Time passes faster in orbit because the satellites are farther away from the mass of the Earth. Down here on the surface, the planet's mass drags time and slows it down into small measures. We call this effect gravitational time dilation. So when we are talking about time travel, at least in my mind, and the way my mind works, I tend to take whatever words there are and break it down. So for us, if we're observed time, we are observing change. And then travel is, the distance between 2 points. Going from one point to the other, that's travel. So in Einstein's theory of the general or special relativity, they determined that if you have like a giant supermassive black hole, space-time, there's two vectors, not vectors meaning there's directionality, which there isn't. You're dealing with both time and space. So what happens when you have a giant gravitational force, like a supermassive black hole that's 400 suns large, you start to see fluctuations. It's like a ripples in a sheet caused by gravity, which is, causes, these time dilations. So with that,
gravity waves.
You're right. The waves. It's causing through the gravitational waves. So that, in theory, that once you reach the speed of light and beyond that time itself becomes irrelevant. So that's where I was picking. I mean, if time becomes irrelevant to space, then you can go wherever you like.
Okay. I was wondering if you were done with that.
So let me see if I can nugget that down for my mind. If you're aware of the time and space that you're in, you're conscious of that frequency set that is that place, right? Is that close or
no? You lost me. So
I lost myself. So
yeah. So it says if you circle this black hole without falling in, you'd experience time at half the rate of Earth. So due to time dilation, you would do a 5-year journey, and it would take 10 years if you were on Earth. It would be perceived as 10 years on Earth.
Right, and that's based on special relativity.
Right.
And what Niels Bohr.
So do you age only 5 years or 10 years?
Well, you would age 5 years, but people back on Earth would age 10 years.
It's like that Twilight Zone episode, The Long Morrow.
Right.
Okay.
Right.
Great episode.
Yeah.
Everybody needs to see that.
Right.
So that goes back to the whole concept of time and space, right? If you think about it from this infinite existence in which all frequencies are captured, all signatures, which is the signatures of time and the signatures of space.
He needs lipstick, Ellery.
No, he doesn't, Uncle Dave.
Daddy's getting turned into a nerd.
Oh, I'm getting turned into one, huh?
You already are one.
Oh, there went Uncle Dave. Sorry, Sarah, and sorry, Professor. Proceed. There's Rowan, who was upset that
I
didn't motion her over.
Yeah, you didn't even say hi to me.
Huh? Gosh, I was doing radio or something.
Gee, I wonder how that worked. So just to kind of finish up what I was talking about, the idea of time and space is a conceptual paradigm that needs to be as fine-tuned as possible with all the available information. Most importantly, your experience in examining that information. That's where it makes, at least in my opinion, the difference in your experience within reality.
Okay.
Yeah, I see it more as like a different dimension, though, rather than just conceptual. Because I mean, everything is occurring simultaneously.
We need a
I'm just listening. I'm slightly distracted, but I'm listening.
Okay.
And
makeup.
Presumably, I mean, there have been alleged, and I'm using air quotes here that you can't tell. So allegedly, there has been some accounts that people who are trying to prove that time travel exists. Like there are some accounts of people saying they've encountered their own doppelganger, or or in the case of time slips, like what happened with the Douglas in Alaska, that plane in the Alaska that went missing. So
the Mandela effect.
Well, Rainey thought she encountered my doppelganger a week ago. She said, I went upstairs and I was really worn out and I laid down in our bed. And she was outside or out doing something. And she came home and she came down here into the studio. And she said, she told me, no, she came into the bedroom and she said, how long have you been up here? And I said, I've been here for about an hour. And she said, I was just talking to you downstairs. I said, you were? I said, what'd you say to me? And she said, hi, I'm back and stuff. And I said, well, what did I say? She said, not much. You acknowledged that I came in and I've got this big Nordic track that the track folds up. And it's alongside that side of my desk and the stairway's over there. She said she came down here, went over to the laundry room and said hi. Didn't really stop and talk to me, but talked to me. And I answered her. And she said,
He's like, who did I take my shirt off in front of?
Yeah, really.
Was the camera on when that happened?
Yeah, really. So now, is that a doppelganger? Was she...
It's a possibility. I mean, it could be a trickster. It could be something.
Hey,
anything
sweetie,
else.
we're talking here. Okay, don't.
It could be anything else. To cite another time-related example, which many people are probably aware of, is the house on Rontopel in Harrisville, was also known as the Conjuring House. Andrea Perrin, who used to live in that house, claimed that she was able to see in the, I guess it was the dining room, she was able to see into the past and see a group of people sitting around the table drinking tankards and having dinner, and then that she thought that they saw her, but she was the ghost to them.
Oh,
I mean, as opposed to that, which was an interesting.
So I don't know if you remember, Sarah. Sometime back, I was talking about being on a podcast with some people doing an investigation, and they were using an obelisk, and the obelisk said, "Uncle Dave's here," and they were all looking around, and I was in the chat room, and I said, "I go by Uncle Dave." And I had been chatting with the host for, 20 minutes. It was at the Conjuring House.
Right.
It was Jennifer. I'm trying to think what her name is.
Heinzen.
Yes.
Okay, the Heinzens. Yeah, they still own the house as far as Yeah. So, what were your impressions of the house since you were over there? Did you feel like...
I wasn't physically there. I was watching it on a live podcast.
Oh, okay. You didn't go investigate over there.
No, they were doing a live broadcast while investigating. It was very interesting because I've seen stories written about the Conjuring House, but I'd never actually seen inside the Conjuring House. And they were doing walkthroughs with cameras and had novelists and tons of orbs, some of which I was certain were dust,
right?
Because of the way it moved.
Yeah, I'm not a big orb fanatic,
but there are certain times when you're looking at it, and the orb is moving at a certain rate, and then suddenly takes a left turn and goes a different direction, and then turns around and comes back towards the camera. Dust doesn't do that. Dust moves in a specific way based on wind.
Yeah,
doesn't do sudden turns and things, and insects don't fly like that either. And so
have you seen any of the latest technology and data they've gotten off of Skinwalker Ranch?
I've been watching some of the show.
Yes, I have.
I'm not sure how I feel about Skinwalker Ranch.
I'm pretty sold on that one.
Whatever it is, they're throwing the toys at it, which is admirable, and I mean needs to be done. But the latest thing they did when they sent the drone up,
yes, I saw that
3D model, and they showed those structures.
Yes,
that was pretty interesting.
I've been following this technology for a long time, and they wouldn't put it out if it couldn't be seriously debunked, because they're making a shitload off this.
Yeah,
so I'm looking at that data. I'm going,
well, who knows what kind of cloaking technology is used in that?
Right.
There could be something physically there that we can't see because of cloaking technology. And look at how the rocket took a sudden left turn.
Right, and then all of the GPS and the smoke bottles they sent down, and what showed up on GPS being below the surface.
Yeah,
right, of the mesa. It's like, how did these bottles pick up or register below the surface of the mesa?
Very Ken doll like, Scotty.
What's that?
I said that's very Ken doll like.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, you got a Ken
nerd.
Well, that's the same thing.
Makeup on him.
Ken dolls are nerds.
I'll look when we're done here, sweetheart.
Who wants me to put makeup on him?
Oh, I see lots of hands going up.
I don't see any hands.
The crowd grows.
Okay.
I have my magic mirror like in Romper Room. I see Bobby and Susie and Ken. They're all raising their hands, man.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
Oh my God!
Too funny. Yeah, so there's a lot of alleged phenomena throughout the years of people claiming that they are able to go back in time. Me personally, I wouldn't want to go back in time. I wouldn't want to go through puberty again. Once was enough. That first time almost killed me.
The first time.
Yeah. So I mean, but as far
I
as
thought you meant the first time you time traveled.
Time travel. I was talking time travel. But I mean, aside from the physical types of time travel, and when you guys were talking earlier, there also we've kind of talked to it when you were discussing, music, when we were talking music and mysticism, is that, the consciousness, as Dr. Bauer always likes to go on about, has a way of bringing you back to previous, to a previous time or previous state, just as like in the book In Search of Lost Time by Proust. Marcel Proust, he dips a Madeleine in his tea and takes a bite, and he's transported back to a day and age in the past. So I mean, it would be interesting to see if we can have those experiences of going in the past and come back with new data rather than what you already know happened and experiencing that through our mind. If we're able to grasp new
Sarah,
data,
for me, that's. Yeah. For me, that's the magic and the wonder of remote viewing.
Right.
These guys, the people that are doing this full time and have a track record, they go to all kinds of places in space and time, from planetary to historical events to even the future, specific targets. But they do it scientifically in a double-blind model where all they have is a series of 8 letters and numbers. That's their target, right?
Right.
So when they go, depending on the verifiability, is that right? Yeah.
So coordinates through space, and then you would have to add, the timing if you're going through time versus just traveling through space. If you wanted to go see what was happening in another country, try to spy on another country.
Yeah, and the empirical data, particularly with the SRI, with Putoff and Targ and Pat Price and Ingo Swann, and this is amazingly documented in official government.
But in essence, they're scrying.
What's that?
But in essence, they're just scrying.
Hey, do you think that's what they're doing? Are they scrying? Are they scrying into a glass?
You're seeing, or because each one of them has different techniques for drawing what they see, but the majority of that work was at minimum on paper. And that's where the evidence is. And then as technology and time progressed, it went to whiteboards. Now they've got this transparent white screen that they use different colors. Farsight Institute with Courtney Brown does some amazing work. But you look at that and you go, well, if you're just using a process, a system, a methodology to go into a state and see things in a different time and place.
Right. And the way I heard
gather data and bring it back, and then we see how you do. I mean,
you're kind of like a security camera mounted on the wall. You're looking down on an event. And you're being an eyewitness to something that you can't physically see, but you're seeing it, and you put down all the information, whether you're handwriting it out or drawing pictures or whatever you're doing. You're putting it on paper, what you saw. You seal it in an envelope. You set it aside. Somebody else takes that and compares it to where you were supposed to be looking and determines, did you see what you were supposed to see, and if so, what did you get?
Exactly.
In one instance where the guy said, I can't do this anymore, his Russian counterpart stopped and looked directly at him.
Oh, yeah.
As if he was seeing him. And he was like, oh, I'm done. He was, like.
One of the, it was with Pat Price and Russell Targ, and they were tasked with, this is back in the early 70s during the height of the Cold War. They were tasked with going to the Kremlin and seeing what was going on in the Kremlin. So inside the building, down the halls. So Pat didn't know what it was. Russell was the tasker and sent him down, use this system and this process. Tell me what you see. And he not only drew it out and wrote it out, but it was, I'm not sure of the time frame, maybe 3 to 5 years later, might have been more. But Russell and Pat went to the Kremlin, and it was exactly what he had written down and drawn.
That's interesting.
Or, whatever the 10 years earlier. Yeah. So that's, to me, that's a psychic ability. Now, the fact that they came up with a method, a system, and a process,
and theoretically can teach anyone to do it.
Thank you very much.
So where would you draw the line between thinking that you're traveling to the future versus prognostication? I mean, if you're given him, I
think it starts with the intent of what you're going after, because if you're doing, at least in the remote viewing system, you have no idea what the target is. You just have this set of numbers and letters. So you focus on what that character set is, and then you let your consciousness go see what it shows you. So the intent should be to just go see what that code represents. And then second, just being objective in whatever sensory experience that you encounter is, and recording it. So there's all kinds of different protocols where you can do space, you can do landscapes, you can do different views. You look for smells, sounds, taste. You look for, different variables in this, wherever this target is. And the fact that that has such an incredibly solid track record. I mean, it's better than any of the experts that have been around for the last few years, at least, if not more, who have just completely blown any credibility, because everything they said turned out to be the exact opposite at a minimum. Some of it questionable on a serious degree. So my point is that the consciousness, having that sense of self, having a good bullshit filter on, just, you got that shield that what doesn't work for you. Just keep that at bay. Let the stuff in that you need, that you feel is important, and then process it, analyze it, and adopt it and adapt it and all those good things. But from time travel perspective, it's like, you know what? I am so busy living in the now, which is actually the future, that going back in time seems like, why do I need to do that? I mean, why?
So that's right. We're always in the future. The now is the future.
And apparently it's not really a thing, but maybe it is. Maybe it's the timeline thing kind of explained. But at a minimum, in the shared reality that we all experience, that we all inhabit in consciousness, doesn't seem to be a real thing. Little tiny, weird, anecdotal things, but nothing of any substance, and depending on your own filter. Like, I think that alien thing is probably more real than not.
My clock must be slow because mine now is always the past.
Right?
Yeah. Must be. What did I just read? How do they not end up watching the cleaning lady in the Stalin bathroom?
I was gonna go with Frida Kahlo, but sure.
Yeah.
Scotty, when you were back doing reenactment, I don't know if you ever experienced this. I had days where
Yes.
you're in costume, you're out doing the thing, and it's
Yes.
as if the patrons are gone, and you are almost transported back. And you're so
Not too
focused on what you're doing that you experience in a day without the 20th century stuff even being in the conscious. It's like you are back in the 1700s or 60s, depending on the period that you're doing. You're there in that moment.
And I will tell you, maybe
It's
I don't know if this has
so
anything to do
magical.
with psychedelics or anything like that, or the use of, but I would find that
What about Sarah?
when I drank
Use of what?
more. Now I'm not talking drunken inebriate falling on the ground. I'm talking about when I drank more and I was detached a little more, I noticed that more. Now, does that tie into the same mental thing that would take us when we're, say, ayahuasca or something like that? Not as far, but the whole psychedelic thing. Comments?
I will say this about that. I think that psychedelics, particularly DMT, ayahuasca, all of the psilocybin in the mushroom family, will become the most important medical adoption and use in the next 10, 20 years.
Well, Rainey's doing the whole mushroom thing.
And that's just on, the natural aspects of what those substances do and bring to our biological experience. Transformative, psychologically as well.
I do think that when you've had a couple of bumps or so, your conscious is more open.
Yeah.
You're more relaxed.
Yeah.
Your guard is down.
Yeah. Inhibition killer.
Yeah, less inhibition.
Careful.
You're not
with
using less
fewer
of the
shields.
Not a
conscious side.
manhole cover.
I mean, often, even when people go through reenactments, especially on notoriously haunted battlefields, they say see a ramp up in activity because
Be
the
gentle,
action of reenacting a battle, you might end up with a couple extra soldiers on the battlefield, or you might hear some cannon fire, or it ends up as like a giant trigger object, or the whole haunted ethnography. I actually have a pretty good book on haunted ethnography. I have to dig it out.
And I think too, if you're out doing an investigation per se, say like at Gettysburg, if you are, and when you talk to guys that are reenactors, they have more experiences when they're in full kit, walking along, and they'll run into 3 or 4 guys, and they're like, wow, their kit was really authentic, and then those guys,
I've heard of that quite often.
Yeah.
Would you consider that time travel, Dave?
Well, part of me wonders if they're stepping through portals, or part of me wonders if because they're out there in kit and you got cannons going off, you got muskets going off, if those spirits are using that energy to be able to come back and be more physical.
They're still living through it. I mean, because they would often use the lingo of back then.
When Scotty and I are in kit, we don't speak in 20th century terms at all. We are
barely
in the 17th century or the 16th century, depending on what we're reenacting.
To me, that would be you guys dialing into that frequency and that signature that exists within whatever this universal cosmic database is, that apparently is where those resonances abide. Because for anyone, and I've long said this about people that we define as savants, people who have just incredible social, physical ailments and disabilities, but they can sit down and do math. They can do calendars. They can do music instantly without ever having any kind of exposure, let alone training or lessons, right? So that to me is dialing into the frequency.
My son,
eyeball under there.
My son has ADD. Okay, and where it manifests for him is that ability to self-motivate and move on to the next thing, right? So back when he was Ellery's age and Rowan's age, they had these things called timesheets, and they were just a series of mathematical products, and you had so many minutes to do the whole sheet.
Right.
Okay.
Right.
And he could never do those in class. And I discovered something that we were at the house one day. He had one of the sheets in front of me. I pointed at a problem. He wrote a number down. Didn't do the work, just wrote a number down. I just, as quick as I could move along the line, he would write numbers down. When I got the calculator out, because I'm mathematically challenged, and checked them all, they were 100% correct. So went to the classroom with the teacher, and I said, pick any timesheet, put it in front of him. She pulls a timesheet, puts it in front of him, and I start doing this, pointing at things. He's writing numbers down. Well, he has to show the work. Just do the calculator. Is it correct? Well, yeah, it's 100% correct. Okay. How important is the work? Because I'm telling you, as a professional working in stuff, I have never been asked to show my work.
That's right.
They just want the frickin' answer.
That's right.
And so I said, you are putting this extra stigma on this kid who already has issues. When he can do the work, he's probably faster at this than any of the kids in class. I don't even understand how he does the math in his head, but he's clearly doing it, and he clearly understands the work. He just doesn't relate to your worksheets and your busyness. You know, it's busy work. I'm the same way. When I was a kid, couldn't stand the busy work.
Yep.
So
do you think that he's showing signs of being an indigo child?
Oh yeah.
Oh.
Yeah.
Now, as indigo children, aren't they limited to a certain time period or age group, like the baby boomers, Generation Z, all of that? Isn't it?
My understanding is the majority of the narrative about them happened during the 90s into the 2000s, and then they kind of dissipated with more of the new age sonic thing taking over, and starting to get people focused on sounds and how those sounds and frequencies affect their body. And that's extremely important, because sound and light are the two fundamental aspects that manifest the materium from consciousness. If you don't have light, you can't see something. It doesn't mean that dark doesn't have stuff in it, but dark is just the absence of light. But the materium manifests from light. And then sound, and we define sound as what we experience with our own auditory capabilities, which are very limited, 20 to 20,000 hertz, right?
Yeah, there's a whole bunch of frequencies we can't hear.
We don't even know or are there, and they're flowing through us all the time. It's like Manly Hall said in one of his lectures about, the whole idea of electromagnetism in the body, because we are electrical beings, and the electricity is mostly fueled and sourced by water. Water and energy are manifestations of this continuum that consciousness makes.
Well,
so everything
we are made of water and energy.
That's my point. We are water and energy in the biological chemical construct. Our mind is separate from that. Our mind fields are the interaction of consciousness and our chemistry. To me. So I can be in my mind, and I can explore all my chemistry and biology and go, what's going on here? And I can be in my mind and go outside into the ethereal realms of non-linear consciousness or non-local, and I can go explore other realms. And a lot of that is, the majority of it is influenced by frequencies. So if you immerse your being into a frequency set. 432, 634. I mean, there's all kinds of 111 is one of my favorites. But if you immerse yourself in that and you allow that frequency to go through your being, and it's great if you got surround and you got a subwoofer because you can really get the extra frequency range that is actually there. It's amazing. And I think we were talking about the psychology of music. So let me try to wrap that back in and I'll shut up. So when you have the understanding of how frequencies work, what their math is, what their sacred geometry, how they work contrapuntally as well as individually, meaning they work individually but together, right? That's how the Bachs, the Beethovens, and all these guys wrote. But as I think I was saying the other night, they were also dabbling in alchemy. Okay, these guys were alchemists, and they understood all of the different ratios of Pythagorean theorems, all of the different models in which how harmonies and frequencies made people feel. And so they would write in their scores using alchemical symbology for the accents that they wanted on a particular bar or score within the score. And they were already thinking as they wrote how these things would affect the listener. And that's why they are still profound today. They were mental, mathematical constructs with an intent to elicit emotion and feeling and the senses in certain ways. And that was the mastery of what started from there and gave us this ability. I mean, if you look at, and I'm just talking about Western music, if you look at the Hindu and the microtonal within the Vedic, and even some of the Japanese sonatas, I mean, these guys have got instruments with tones and notes we don't, and they do rhythms that we have a hard time keeping up with. You start doing counts and 5s and 8s and 9s. You go, what's going on here? But when you get into it, it's amazing.
I'm still doing a show.
Nerd made.
So anyway, one last thing. When we did Niles the other night,
yes,
and Scotty, you were so obnoxiously brutal on Nile, and I was like,
in a friendly way.
I was feeling bad for him. But I found something that he hadn't heard that I shared with him on Facebook.
Yeah.
And he absolutely loved it. Some Argentine metal band that was just tearing it up.
Nice.
So he was very grateful and thankful for that.
Yes. That's pretty cool.
Who wants me to do their makeup?
Not me.
Okay, Uncle Dave.
There, to wrap the serious conversation, I have been in the conversation paying attention, so just so you know.
I haven't.
There's my golden white hair.
It looks great.
Thank you. Thank you.
I'm very happy with it.
One bit of it up, I will bite you.
Rainey's over there looking at me and going, that's my man.
Yeah.
He's so hot with his new brow, she said.
You have a nice unibrow going?
If you're nerd. Here.
Unibrows turn you on? Yeah. Here, darken it in a little
bit. Now he wants it.
Hey, Dad. Do you want to do my makeup?
No, not right now.
We're still on a show, Ellery.
We've been on a show. I've been letting you doing that because you're quiet, but.
So, Sarah, do you have any opinion on the blather that I just babbled?
No.
No.
No, not really. I mean, sure.
It's all just talking. All we're missing is pints right now. So,
wouldn't that be great?
Huh?
Did all the alcohol talk yesterday.
Yes.
That's right. We did have an alcohol talk, didn't we?
We did a little bit. Well, folks, I hate to see it. It is with a heavy heart that I'm going to say it's time to wrap this baby.
Yeah.
Come back and pass
So
what she said.
Psychology of
So-
music, maybe Monday or
So
I'm not
well-
sure yet.
Before we close this off, let's get kind of a roundtable consensus on what we think about time travel. Summarize quickly. I'll start. I think time travel is a concept that is possible, probable, and depending on the modality, very real.
Okay. All right. Dave Potter. You go
I
next.
think it is completely possible in an astral projection sort of way. I think that there is interesting empirical evidence from people like we've discussed tonight that may have some form of physical time travel, but it's clearly not public yet. But I think at some point in time in the timeline it will be.
Okay. Sarah.
oh, I got nothing.
I knew I should have left earlier.
Not that easy. No.
No, I mean, but at least
I
you know.
think on Monday we should do psychology of music.
But yeah, but I mean, in terms of time travel, it's like the people.
Oh, that was Dave?
Consider the people who, it gave me, my brain had a chance to catch up.
Yes.
So,
Yes.
It's a time dilation, but it seems. I mean, I like the idea of time travel, but you know, you come across so many different problems with it. You know, in terms of like paradoxes and all that stuff. And it's use it for
Paradox schmaradox.
I was just gonna say that paradox schmaradox.
That people who long to visit the past, it's that sort of thing where they're either full of nostalgia or regret.
Sure.
That people tend to live rather than live in the moment and take what you've been through.
I would love to visit the past, but I think there would be fear and terror involved because knowing that the wrong word or wrong whatever could get me burned as a witch at any moment.
Well, that's pretty much it.
Well, Sarah, to your
what
point,
I think of time travel is, I think it is possible. Obviously, with your mind, I think it is possible with either not out of body experience, astral projection, physical time travel. To me, seems to be something that is so far advanced from what we're capable of doing. But then again, I don't really know that either.
And yet, I'm pretty sure Ryan Gale does it. Look at all the crap he has from other periods. I'm serious.
It's crazy.
I mean, once people master time, then that's their one way of trying to find immortality, right? By maybe finding to know how it travels and how to make it stop. So
I would go back in time more than the future. The only reason I'd go to the future is to selfishly enrich myself. I would get lottery numbers.
Right.
But
I would be fabulously wealthy if I were able to actually travel in time.
Oh, yeah. I'd like to go into the past. I would like to see things. I don't necessarily have to participate. I'd like to be an observer, though. I'd like to see things. And I'm not talking like 10 years ago. I'm talking like 1,000 years ago.
Do you want to take pictures of dinosaurs?
Dinosaurs don't thrill me all that much. My son, maybe.
Not interested. I'm interested in the Middle Ages. I'm interested in ancient Rome. I think would be interesting to look at.
Yes.
I'd love to see like ancient Mesopotamia.
I would too. Where you're going back,
Uruk and Eridu and all that,
Enki and all that. Just literally see what's actually going on, and go back to ancient India and look at Brahmana.
I would love to go back to Göbekli Tepe and see what was going on.
Yeah. So let me ask you guys something that I have personally found a very amazing, but nowhere near understood experience. So around where I'm at in northwestern New Mexico, there is a boatload of ruins. You've got not only Grand Canyon, you got Chaco Canyon, you have the Valley of the Ancients, Santa Fe. I mean, there's just an amazing amount of just ruins from a long time ago.
Yeah.
And so
which academia just sort of brushes over and says they're ancient ruins, but doesn't really want to delve too deep on how ancient they actually are.
Yeah, I mean, you look at the way they prop it up and package it, it's kind of go, well, okay, that kind of makes sense. That one doesn't. I needed more data. But my point is that when I would go to these places, particularly Chaco Canyon, every place that I go where there was someone before, who left something.
Very true, Catherine.
Language, artifacts, tools, whatever, and you can put your hand on them. Then for me, I just go through this. It feels like almost an instant connection to what it was when it was there, when it was populated. And it's not always clear. Most of it's fuzzy. Most of it's emotional, or a feeling of emotions. And I'm trying to fine tune that ability to, really, and I think it's going to come through more of a remote viewing process model, but nonetheless, trying to refine that ability to experience that. When you are in and on and in contact with something that was a long time ago, do you guys not have that similar kind of experience?
Well, I think that's what Scotty experienced in Egypt when he saw the priests coming towards him. I think he was so open to it. He was on the right wavelength, on the right frequency of that time, that he, like a window in time, got to see some of what was happening in that day and age. Yes. Because his mind was open to that frequency.
And it was interesting that a year later, when Chris Conway connected with this guy, he said he was from 3,500 years ago, and that he was like a physician or a doctor, not necessarily physician, a different kind, but that he was drawn to me because I thought the way he thought. Now, this is a connection I hadn't made till you said that, Dave, is that, if there was that crack in time, is that they were seeing something, that's maybe when he also saw me. And that was reciprocal. So, which makes it very interesting. So
similar to the Conjuring House. I wonder in all of those locations if there was a high quartz content in the land or in the area.
I don't know.
Interesting question.
It's easy enough to find out, I guess. You look at Saqqara and the place where the stepped pyramid is. That's where we were.
Quartz says that believed to be able to hold a lot of energy. So I mean,
granite and quartz.
Yeah,
go hand in hand. So
granite's half quartz. So I mean, yeah.
So do you guys? What's your opinion of the electric universe theory?
I don't know anything about it.
Okay.
There's
Dave,
my opinion.
Sarah?
It's Daffy.
Is that similar to? Well, I mean, is that similar to stone tape? I'm trying to sort it through my
Can you expand on that?
Yes. So the electric universe theory is that everything in the universe is electric. Everything is based on what we use, conjure, but we can't explain this electricity thing. And electricity is different than magnetism. But the idea is that the way our physics have defined this thing that makes up reality, which is energy and magnetism, we've got all these different little associations and distinctions about what that is. Gravitation is really not gravity, it's magnetism. And energy and electricity is what makes, in fact, the plasma model, a plasma-based energy explains a shitload that our current science does not have an adequate answer or consensus at a minimum, which is not science, but there is no consensus on what electricity is, the placebo effect, anesthesiology. I mean, they know the shit works. They have no idea how do drugs put you out. How's that consciousness thing work?
Right.
There's all these fundamentals of biology, physics, and chemistry that just don't they don't scale to the evidence. And you look at it and you go, well, maybe your science needs an update. Maybe your perspective on the way that you're looking at things needs additional information that, oh, by the way, there's some over here if you'd like to look at it. And that in and of itself, to me, is one of the most powerful things of consciousness, is the ability to observe, acquire, analyze, and adapt new information. In fact, that's what I define for me is, if you want, and what is intelligence? Intelligence is the efficiency with which you can acquire, analyze, adapt, and new information, and how you integrate that within your stuff. Smart is the ability to look on your intelligence, see how it's doing.
There you go. Smart. SMRT. Smart.
Right. I'm smart about this, but that you have to start there before you can even get into what is it that time travel could actually mean to me. As far as I'm concerned, the only reliable thing that I've seen is the time travel in my mind. So I'm going to harvest and marinate over there until something physical manifests its ability for me to do it in a different way.
Don't start on it, Joyce.
You know what I'm saying?
You're going to get us off on a different tangent.
Here we go. Thanks, Joyce. You ready?
I mean, technically, we're all time travelers as we're traveling into the future. Everybody.
We can do that with any topic, though. We're all theologians. You know, when it comes,
we're not only spectators, we're speculators.
Right.
Because everything, the one thing that came clear to me is that it doesn't matter what the subject, what the knowledge domain, whatever the metrics and the matrix that you're using to define a knowledge stack. It's all speculation. It's all there are some things that you can go, well, yeah, electricity lights up the house. Yeah, that's true. But we don't know what electricity is. There is no scientific definition for electricity that is unified and defined as that's what it is.
Yep.
We have the metrics for the characteristics of it, its nature and its habits, but we ain't got doesn't matter. Quantum doesn't, whatever, mechanical physics, it doesn't matter. There is no definition. Same thing for the placebo effect. How does that work? How can the mind manifest something that has been observed and categorized as a placebo? You got something that didn't do it, but you thought it was going to do it, therefore it did. What is that? Explain that.
I don't know. We will have to explore that next time we're all together.
What about cases of deja vu?
What about cases of deja vu? I got one
time
for
travel?
You. Hey, it's time to end this show. Wow. Didn't I just say that a half an hour ago? No, I'm kidding. We can explore that, Sarah. Let's take that up as a different topic another time, because I can't stick around. So I'm going to cut the show off at this point. And
you need to get that razor out and get that Groucho off your forehead.
Oh, my God. Yeah, my face is dying to be washed right now. So
you got a serious Groucho going there.
I appreciate everybody's input. Sarah, I appreciate it. Dave, he's sitting out in the wings. I'm not even going to bring you back in, Dave, because I'm just going to say goodbye. Well, wait, hold on. Hey, good night, Dave. Thanks for being here. Sarah, thank you. Ellery just said good night, Uncle Dave. And Sarah, thanks for being here.
Thanks, guys.
And I will talk to you again.
Pleasure as always.
Very soon. And save your thoughts, Sarah. I'm not dismissing them.
Didn't he like he tossed us off on throwing under the bus on Wednesday night, which we thought was going to be
me,
music,
especially.
Right? Yeah.
That's right.
And then last night was supposed to be the psychology, and
I got prepped and everything, and then
right.
I'm not going to help you anymore.
She always asks me a day ahead of time. What are you going to talk about tomorrow? I said, I don't know yet. So That's the way I do.
I even sent you stuff on time travel this morning.
You
So
did, and I
you're
did not
jumping
get a
off one.
chance
Didn't
to
even
look
at
it
it.
over.
Yeah.
I was so busy today.
See?
I didn't get a chance to look that over.
So you know, next week, sir, you and I need to take over a couple of shows and just get to the point, shall we?
Oh, what was that, Dave?
I knew that would get you.
Yeah. All right, everybody.
I'm
let's
hopping
get
off.
out of here. Say your goodbyes, Mr. Bond. So, all right, everybody, say goodnight.
Prosper
Live
and a
long
long
and
life,
prosper,
my
everyone.
friends.
Be good to someone.
Night, everybody.
Rowan said, or Ellie said, live long and prosper from way over there.
Aw, so sweet.
So, all right, folks.
Deja
thanks
vu
for being
next
here. We're going
week.
to wrap
I think
this
that's a
up
great
now.
idea.
As if you did not know, this was the informal part of the show tonight. And Naked HD's got us set on some kind of repeating thing here. So all of you seeing those ads,
Yeah,
over there,
whatever. He's
just
an
ignore
idiot.
them.
Yeah.
So, and that's all we got. So, guys, live long and prosper. We'll talk to you soon. I'm actually gonna do an out for this part of the show. So we'll see you later. Good night.
Bye.
Join us every weeknight at 9 p.m. Central Standard Time, 10 p.m. Eastern. The Intrepid Radio Program, a Scotty Roberts Productions broadcast.